the 4th of September 1999, the turning point for Timor-Leste. On the 4th of September 1999, the world's attention turned to East Timor. After centuries of colonization and nearly a quarter-century of Indonesian occupation, the Timorese people finally had their say in a United Nations organized referendum. The result was overwhelming. Almost 80% voted for independence. For the Timorese, it was a day of hope, of dignity, and of courage. But that same day also marked the beginning of one of the darkest chapters in the nation's history. On the 30th of August 1999, nearly 450,000 people went to the polls across East Timor. The choice was clear: remain under Indonesian rule with special autonomy, or choose full independence. When the votes were counted and announced on the 4th of September, 78.5% of the electorate said no to autonomy and yes to independence. For a people who had endured decades of violence and repression, the ballot box became their most powerful weapon. The message to the world was undeniable. East Timor would chart its own destiny. This victory was not the work of one group alone. It was the result of collaboration across every sector. The frontline fighters of FALINTIL, the diplomats who lobbied tirelessly abroad, the clandestine networks inside the country, and the students and youth who carried the struggle in Timor and beyond. It was also supported by the solidarity of friends around the world, especially in Australia, Portugal, Indonesia itself, Europe, and many other nations who raised their voices for justice. And above all, it was the decision of the Timorese community itself, ordinary men and women, mothers and fathers, farmers, workers, students, who walked fearlessly to the polling stations and chose independence. Their courage in the ballot box decided everything. But independence came at a terrible price. Pro-Indonesian militias backed by elements of the Indonesian military unleashed a wave of violence. Entire neighborhoods were set ablaze. Homes, schools, markets, and government buildings were destroyed. In Dili, the capital, nearly 80% of the city was reduced to ashes. In just a matter of weeks, more than 1,000 civilians lost their lives. The celebration of freedom quickly turned into a struggle for survival. The destruction triggered one of the worst humanitarian crises in the region. Over 500,000 Timorese were forced from their homes. Around 200,000 were driven across the border into West Timor, often at gunpoint. Families were torn apart, children were lost, and refugee camps filled with the displaced. The dream of independence had come true, but it was clouded by fear, hunger, and grief. For many Timorese, this was a moment of both triumph and tragedy. The scale of the violence shocked the world. International news outlets broadcast the crisis, and images of destruction reached every corner of the globe. International leaders condemned the atrocities and pressure mounted on Indonesia to allow outside help. The United Nations convened emergency meetings to address the escalating violence. Within weeks, the United Nations authorized a multinational peacekeeping mission. Known as INTERFET and led by Australia, peacekeepers landed in Dili in late September. Their arrival marked the beginning of the end of the chaos. Step by step, security was restored, militias were pushed back, and humanitarian aid began to reach those in desperate need. By October 1999, the United Nations Transitional Administration in East Timor was established. Its mission was to guide the country through recovery, rebuild shattered infrastructure, and prepare the people for independence. Against enormous odds, the Timorese rebuilt their homes, reopened schools, and began the work of healing. And on the 20th of May, 2002, East Timor, now Timor-Leste, finally stood as the world's newest independent nation. The 4th of September 1999 was more than just a date. It was the day the Timorese people's voice shook the world. It was also the day when violence tried but failed to silence their dream. The victory of independence came through unity. The armed struggle, diplomacy, clandestine networks, youth movements, and the solidarity of nations. But most importantly, it came through the decision of the Timorese people themselves, the community who stood together and voted for freedom. Today, Timor-Leste stands as a nation born of resilience, sacrifice, and determination. The courage of that generation continues to inspire. Never forget the struggle, honor the survivors, and remember those who gave everything so that Timor-Leste could be free. The story of East Timor is one of courage, sacrifice, and hope. On September 4, 1999, a nation's dream for freedom was met with unimaginable hardship. Yet, through the support of the international community and the resilience of its people, youth, elders, and peacekeepers alike, Timor-Leste rose from the ashes. Today, Timor-Leste stands as a testament to the power of unity and determination. Let us honor their journey, reflect on their resilience, and remember that hope can triumph over adversity. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that matter. As the Timor-Leste flag waves, let us take a moment to honor the resilience and courage of its people. May their story inspire hope and peace in us all.